Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's Thursday, the 31st of July 2025, and the time is 3:33 p.m. It's been another cold day, and this is day 4 of my weird illness. Don't know what it is. I don't have a runny nose, and I've staved off a lot of the coughing by taking mullein tea, but let me put it delicately. I got purged and slammed every which way Sunday today. Bing, bam, boom, baby. So if my body doesn't drive this illness for whatever it is out of me, I don't know what it's doing, but by the gods. Anyway, as you can see by my slightly damp hair, I've had a shower and brushed my teeth and put on lipstick, and I've been listening to very intense videos all day, which were very confronting, and even got myself mightily enraged on a few issues. It's funny how I do that when I'm really, not deathly ill, but quite sick, really not doing so great. How I kind of dig into my own woundings by watching these really confronting fucking shows. It's like, why can't I look at nice, lovely, fluffy, bunny, sweet little baby duck things and think about Pollyanna things and just live in fucking step 40 and wife denial for the rest of my life and just be content and happy ever after? And there's not enough drugs in the known universe can make me do that. I need reality. I need truth. I need real life. I need courage and corazon and beauty and art and literature. But on the subject of confronting topics, I've decided to read a book that I picked up at the Lifeline Book Fest when I bought all the other lovely spiritual and ghost stories and, the other. Some of them were confronting too, if I remember correctly from previous videos. But anyway, I picked up my usual paranormal, liminal, part ghostly, part, scary, part life affirming, because nothing like being scared out of your wits to make you affirm life, people of Earth. Ask me how I know. It is a form of kind of an ongoing torture though when it keeps happening on repeat. It really is. But anyway, I've hesitated. I've looked at reading this book out to you before, and I've hesitated because I know people are very cruel and judgmental towards the subculture that is bikers, or here in Australia and New Zealand we call them bikies, but in America you call them bikers, and in certain parts of society they're feared and held in utmost contempt and disdain and shock and horror. And as I've always said though, people of Earth, human beings are human beings wherever we are. We all bleed, we all need to eat and drink, we all shit, unfortunately, some more than others. We all need to put our trousers or slacks or pants on, one leg at a time. We all wake up in the morning, get through our day and go to sleep at night, moving through life one day at a time, never knowing really from any given moment what the fates have in store for us. And some of those who live in the criminal underbelly live with that reality probably even more finely honed than others, because they're living in practicing quite dangerous lifestyles. And so I'm neither condoning nor condemning, I'm just saying it how it is. And I myself had a flirtation for 8 months with an outlaw motorcycle clubhouse. I won't name names, but treated me with absolute respect and kindness until it turned ugly at the end. But I firmly believe that was the actions of the young guard trying to do a takeover from the old guard, as the young are wont to do. Are we right, people of Earth? The young who lack wisdom and full comprehension of the outcome of their actions do stupid things. But anyway, I left with dignity, and there was no harm and there was no real foul. I was a bit pissed off at the time because I enjoyed the company I was keeping. You know, up till then everything had been going along quite swimmingly. And, you know, I was well respected and well liked by members of the hierarchy. So it is what it is, people of Earth. And as I say, it's one of my little missions that the Holy One or the God sent me on, and no regrets. I didn't involve myself in any of their business undertakings. It's not my business to involve myself. And I drank and played pool and counselled occasionally. Not that I'm a counsellor, but occasionally, you know, some of the women would ask me for advice about things and I would give them my opinion, which is how I counsel people. And opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one and you're under no obligation to take it on board either, but they seem to quite like how I expressed my opinions and found it to be useful at that time of their lives. So there's a lot to be said about holding to your truth and conducting yourself with dignity and honour. So this book is titled Satan's Choice. My life is a hardcore biker with Satan's choice and Hell's Angels, by Lorne, Campbell and Peter Edwards. And like most of my stories I've presented to you here on YouTube, I'll go chapter by chapter. If they're short chapters and if I've got enough breath in me and I've got enough energy, I'll maybe do 2 chapters. As you can hear, struggling to get enough oxygen in, so probably just be 1 chapter. Or if I really struggle, I might cut it short. But as always with the Tanya, I'm very incongruent. I should be resting actually, but I've been very weak earlier today, right up until about 3 o'clock, where I've suddenly blossomed. I think having the really scathing hot shower revived me a bit. But so I won't be doing anything too crazy, just saying I'm just gonna ride this through because not all that well, my darlings. Right. It was actually pretty simple. They like to make it complicated. People have embellished it a lot. We went to the bar. I sat with one other person. We ordered a drink. Mike Everett, he said. He's sitting with a gun pointed at Rick and Gary. I got up right away and went to the table and I said, "How you doing, Bill?" As soon as I said, "How you doing?" he went for it. I totally wish he hadn't gone for it. I'd have had to live with it. It hasn't been easy. But he went for it and I happened to be faster. It happened so fast that I just reacted. When you see somebody going for a gun and you've got one with the upbringing I've had, you'll be fast. I'm glad I had the gun. I never questioned my decision. Not once. Not for a second. You're kind of helpless to change anything, but I just wish it hadn't happened. Just a waste of life. Lorne Campbell, outlaw biker for 46 years. Author's note. It might sound more authentic, given the subject matter inside these covers, if I said this book was written between snorts of cocaine off a tattooed biker chick's belly. So I kind of have to laugh at that. In reality, the pages that follow are mostly the product of lengthy interviews that were conducted over several months across the kitchen table of a friend of Lorne Campbell's, between feedings of comfort food such as spaghetti with meatballs or freshly baked lemon meringue pie. Yum. Could do with that right now. Oh well. I heard about Campbell years before we even ever spoke. I knew of him primarily from author Mick Lowe's Conspiracy of Brothers as the outlaw biker who tried to take the rap for the fatal shooting of Golden Hawk Motorcycle Club member Paul Matiak back in 1978. I also knew that, to some bikers, lawyers, and even police, he embodies the old outlaw biker code of sticking up for your brothers, shunning the justice system, and oh dear God, ignoring the press. What a time to sneeze. Oh well, as they say in Yiddish and German, Gesundheit. Naturally, I was curious when Mary Liscombe, a retired educator, who's a mutual friend, suggested a meeting with Campbell in the summer of 2011. In my profession, curiosity often trumps brains, and so off I went. I had written a lot of unflattering things over the years about the outlaw biker world, including the two clubs Campbell had belonged to, the Satan's Choice and Hell's Angels. As I drove to the meeting, I couldn't stop wondering if I was in some sort of trouble. It was immediately obvious when we started talking that Campbell was the real deal. He was 63 years old and had spent his entire life as an outlaw biker. He joined the Satan's Choice at age 17, the youngest ever full member of that club, and he had seen and done plenty of things inside and outside the law between that time. And his retirement in good standing from the Hells Angels in June 2011, yes, you can retire from a biker club and ride away intact. Campbell had plenty of stories from those 4 decades on the streets and behind bars. He smiled in a way I couldn't decipher and said he was thinking about telling them in a book. I said to Campbell that I was interested in his story, but I would only want to write a full and honest account. That meant I would double-check the truth of those stories. I would dig up material on my own, and I would have the final say on what was published. I also told him that I had co-written a book, The Encyclopedia of Canadian Organised Crime, with one of my journalism heroes, Michelle Alger, who survived being shot 6 times in September 2000. Alger was almost killed for the crime of doing his job as a crime reporter honestly. And the gunman was working for Maurice Mom Boucher of the Hells Angels in Quebec. I am proud to share this line of work with Alger, and I wanted Campbell to know that I blamed some Hells Angels for the near murder of a friend. He needed to be clear that I could never condone or forget that. I wouldn't have been surprised if things had ended there. That's what I expected, and that would have been fine. My curiosity was already at least partially satisfied. Just want to check on my boy. Ah, there he is. Instead, Campbell pleasantly surprised me. I learned quite quickly that he enjoys surprising people, although not always pleasantly. He said he had no problems with me telling a full and honest story about himself, adding, with a smile, "I've got plenty of bad stuff." Campbell knows more about what makes a good story than many people who have spent as much time in classrooms as he has spent in prisons and jails. In another life, he could have made a fine editor. I was a little taken aback when he spoke about the importance of character development and the need to present people as rounded human beings. Not something I expected from a drug debt collector who has broken more bones than he can remember. As we continued to meet, I found I actually liked him, even though I still shudder at the thought of many things he has done. I often wondered how, with a different start, his life could have turned out far differently. The qualities that made him stand out as an outlaw biker, such as toughness and loyalty and intelligence, would have won him awards in sports or the military or business. I also liked how Campbell didn't whine about the life he did have. We only have this life and have to play the hand we're dealt. Still, at many points during our meetings, he made me think about the important role fathers play in shaping their children's lives. Many of the saddest stories he told me were about people he knew with missing or abusive fathers. Too often in his own story, Campbell is one of them. In time, I came to respect his brand of honesty. Through months of lengthy interviews, I double-checked his stories and never caught Campbell in a lie. I like people like that. Straight up, upstanding, courageous, honest, valuable gift to have. More and more valuable as our planet devolves into some fucking inversion. Right, sweet people of Earth, the ones who vibe with me, the survivors and the warriors, the spiritual warriors. He was never late for an interview and always gave his full attention to questions. He also never ended an interview, even though our average weekly talk lasted more than 6 hours and the questions were often intensely personal. There have been times when I felt he was leaving out a name or two when describing a crime so that he wouldn't be ratting anyone out. Pardon me, excuse me, I've had most terrible reflux with this illness. It's been grueling. Grueling. Right, Mama T, as she's been doing since early infancy, is holding her own. Reading stories to my beautiful YouTube audience. Keeping warm with my little birdie boys surrounding me. It's a living, people of Earth. By the gods, it's a living. Right. But he is largely comfortable with decisions he has made in his own life and didn't feel the need to embellish or cover up. He was often tough on himself and volunteered things about himself that I had never even heard as rumours. That includes details of the Bill Matiak shooting and how he came close to executing 3 other men who ran afoul of the Satan's choice. He doesn't dispute what he has done. He just wants to explain why he did it. The other weird thing I've had since I've had this illness, let me just show you. By the gods, it's all very odd. I mean, I'm genuinely sick, but the almost psychosomatic concurrent things happening are very, very weird. You see the scar? I did that on the 13th of February, right? So it's a fairly, well, it's a few months old now. Recent wound, and it's externally healed beautifully. Like you can almost not see the red line anymore. It's turned a weird shade of purple and silver, and wow. But I keep getting really sharp twinging pains, like someone's going in and stabbing it again. So it must be like nerve endings that are being inflamed, like I can't explain it. But I notice when I'm not well that I keep getting like ghost pains in this wound, like, and it feels like, so if you see me wince, it's actually that. There's nothing wrong with it externally. It's perfectly fine, as you can see. But I'm getting all these ghost pains in it. And, well, you know, let's face it, people of Earth. I'm convinced that that was a kind of a spiritual attack. So I've got the wound to show for it. And it healed, and I'm carrying on fighting forwards, people of Earth. But the weird twinging and pain in it is astonishing. And so it must be connected up to some nerve that's just tripping off, but it literally feels like I'm being stabbed again in that site. So it's both painful and spasmodic and twingy and a bit freaky because it's a healed wound. Should not be doing that. Anyway, what can I say? The Mamati, the shaman, the witch, the Jew, the New Zealand, Australia, German, Polish, English, Irish, Scottish, with teeny tiny smattering of French and Spanish in my ancestry, is living her best life, carrying on each and every day. And you know, bad colds happen. I'm very susceptible to bad colds in winter. So that part was kind of my own folly, but you know, I was feeling so good and so great. I'd been out for 2 nights of dancing. I felt so great. So you see, when I joke with my beautiful, well, handsome, not beautiful, but when I joke with my friend, the security manager at the Brooklyn Standard, and he says, I'll see you tomorrow night. He always jokes for me to come there 2 nights on the weekend. When I go, I usually go there on a Friday night. And when the standard joke is, I'll see you tomorrow, and I always say, you'll kill me. There you go, Richard. I'm not lying. I'm not lying to you when I say you'll kill me. I didn't do my second night at the Brooklyn. I did my second night at the Fit Season. I had a wonderful time, but caught a winter chill and it's fucking killing me, all right? So I'm not exaggerating when I say I've got to pace myself like a bit of flotsam and jetsam floating on a wave. I've just got to gently lull myself and build my strength back. But Saturday night, I think it was halfway through the second set, I knew I was in trouble. My energy just dropped out of me like a huge cannonball. It just went poof, and I actually, in my mind's eye, felt it go through the floor, down several meters beneath the ground, and then dissipate out from that. And then I just sat there. I thought, well, I wasn't sitting, I was still dancing. But I just stood there and I went, you're fucked, Tanya Aarons. Your spirit just dropped right the hell out of you and you're tired. So I sat through, I sat out in the next break. I sat it out, which I do anyway. Rested and continued dancing till the end of the night for the third set. But when they played Zombie, I didn't have the strength in me to do the full mosh. I just swayed from side to side and nodded my head in time to the music. I was that exhausted. So, but it doesn't mean I need you to go all nanny on me and try and stop me from dancing just means that I got to remember that 2 nights is too much, and I got to pace myself, and I got to recover from this illness before I go dancing again. So there is that. Right. Throughout our months of lengthy interviews, I found that Campbell has an extremely accurate memory that is aided by novel reference points. Sometimes when I asked him a question, he would look at one of his many tattoos to try to figure out a date based on when he had had that particular image inked onto his body. He would also think back to how the timing of events related to his entry or release dates from jail or prison. Isn't jail and prison the same thing? Oh well. I always thought they were one and the same thing. Maybe it's a matter of one is more higher security than the other, I don't know. It's a Canadian author, so maybe that's a Canadian reference, differential there. If I don't know, I don't know, and I'm honest about what I don't know, people of Earth. Right. I think I'm going to throw up by the gods. I'm not, but I just feel kind of blocked. Look, my chest is quite clear. I'm able to breathe quite deeply. So I don't know what the hell this is. It's a very weird illness. Very weird indeed. Right, anyway, people of Earth. At least the fevers have settled down. Feeling tiny bit like I'm warming up a tiny bit now, but you know, it's not so bad. I'm gonna live. The only reason I'm alive, people, is just a mere act of defiance against all my enemies and early childhood abusers and every other malingering, malignant, maligning, maleficent dog that climbed on like fleas over the decades. Well, I shucked them all off, and here we go. Another day in paradise. Hilarious. I don't even have the strength to laugh properly. Anyway. I learned fairly early on in this project that prisoners who are fuzzy on other details invariably have sharp memories when it comes to when they were locked up or set free. Most conversations in this book are recreated from his memory, while others are from police wiretaps. Now that this project is completed, I find that I genuinely like Campbell and wish the best for him. It's hard to reconcile the friendly, intense guy across the kitchen table with the man who appeared in police files and in newspaper stories, some of which were written by me. Both versions of Campbell are true to a point. The more I talked with him, the more I thought of the Catholic idea that we can love a sinner while hating the sin. I never expected my chats with Campbell about his crimes and capers to remind me of lessons from a priest. For all the delight he takes in surprising others, Campbell helped me to surprise myself. Right, beautiful people of planet Earth, we'll move on to chapter 1. How long? I just want to see how long that goes for. It's 11 pages long. How long was that what I just read? Okay, it's going to be a struggle, but I think we can do it. I think I can. What are my gorgeous boys doing? Oh, look at this, my beautiful one. Can you see him? He's eating a strawberry. Strawberry for the Cammy boy. Do you like the strawberry? Yes. He says, don't talk, baby, talk to me, Mama T. I'm not a baby, I'm 45. Yes. Well, you know what? I don't know how old you really are. And if I want to baby talk you, I'm going to baby talk you. Because I've got no grandchildren to look forward to, by the gods. It's not my daughter's fault. They were poisoned by my government. Poisoned to the point where I lost them too. So, maintain the rage, people of Earth, what they've cost me. Right, anyway, we must carry on, otherwise, what's the point? Suicide is painless, but it's permanent. It doesn't actually resolve anything. You just get vomited back to Earth and have the same conditions repeated all over again in a hell loop without end. I think that's probably why my life's been the way it has been. Because my grandmother was a suicide. But having said that, I almost did that on 2 occasions too. Escapism, people of Earth. There is no escape. None. Not via drugs, not via suicide, not via living in Pollyanna, white privilege fantasy worlds, creating your own private little world where nothing can touch you, in a vacuum where in space no one can fucking hear you scream. There's no escape. You've got to work things through. Live your best life with harm to none and competition from none, but work things through till finally the gods lift the little needle off the LP and put you in another groove and spin you again, and maybe they'll put you into a groove that sings you home to the perfect life you always dreamed about. And maybe not, but you can only try. You can only try and keep trying. So anyway, chapter 1. Growing up hard. All the time I was being beaten, I thought, I'm not going to be 14 forever. I'm going to grow up. Lorne Campbell. Lorne Campbell has shot and stabbed and punched out and hammered and clubbed more of his fellow human beings than he can remember. Would be easy to conclude that he fell into a hard life that would be wrong. As Campbell tells it, he didn't fall into violence. Violence is where his life began. Campbell recalls a time when he was about 6 and his dad was beating his mother yet again. This time Campbell's father held a knife, threatening her. I was screaming at my dad to kill her. It wasn't because I wanted my mother to die. I just wanted it to stop. I loved her. I just wanted it all to end. All of the violence and the beatings. If the violence that typified his decades as an outlaw biker was bred into his bones, so was the sense of turf. For as long as he could remember, there was something righteous about hating the town of Whitby, a 10-minute drive towards Toronto, from his native blue-collar Oshawa, a city that billed itself as the automotive capital of Canada. He'd barely left his mother's breast when he was hearing stories of how, during the Great Depression of the 1930s, Campbell's huddled in tents near Whitby Harbour, where the poorest of the poor gathered. The family felt abandoned by the town as they shivered by the shore of Lake Ontario. In future years, when someone from the family, like Campbell's cousin, superstar jockey Sandy Hawley, did well, others in the family would stress the connection to nearby Oshawa and try to omit any reference to Whitby. It was like the municipality was being two-faced, like, there's only 2 things I don't like about you, and that's your face. We always fought people from Whitby, Scarborough, Dunbarton. Wouldn't matter if the person was a nice person. What's the matter with Dunbarton? I don't know. They ain't from Oshawa. I mean, it's funny when you think about it, how stupid human beings really are. Like, I'm laughing because it's just so insane. But I've lived that way all my life, being othered by dumb motherfuckers. You know. When we migrated to Melbourne with my paedophile fucking, sexually harassing, verminous concentration camp surviving, think you'd be a better person after going through that dreadful experience. Cunt of a man, When my mother dragged me over to Melbourne to go and live with him, I got beaten up at school for having a New Zealand accent. It got so bad, the teacher asked my mother, to take me back to the previous school, which was a slightly kinder school. Got me out of St Kilda back to Caulfield. 3.5 years later, I go back to New Zealand for my secondary schooling, what the Americans call high school. Got attacked again for having an Australian accent, specifically a Melbourneian accent. Wow, I couldn't bung it on now if I tried. Got my New Zealand accent back real fast. Had to work at it to get the ear and get it right back where it belonged. That's why I have no real fealty to any country or class or creed or any aspect of humanity, because I've seen the ugly. I've seen the ugly across all paradigms. I got attacked when I migrated here to Brisbane in 1988. As a, Reformed Jewish convert, married, brought my 2 little babies here to raise them, joined the temple thinking I'm raising my children as Jews and giving them a good background in their culture and their religion and their identity. Got viciously attacked and slumped for 2 fucking years, accused of being a Nazi. Me, people of Earth. The most un-Nazi person you ever met in your life. The most open-minded person you ever met in your life. The most loving person you ever met in your life. Unless you go out of your way to piss me off and attack me, then it's on for young and old, but fair's fair. But anyway, that went on. It was a mental mindfuck for years. How do I fit into this community raising my daughters as Jews? Where do I belong? Who will accept me? Who will include me? Who will embrace me? Who will love me? Ultimately, at the end of the day, fucking no one. Because there's always an external enemy out there that's going to judge you harshly. Look at that crazy old lady who's been picking her nose pimples and making videos on YouTube and reading stories about bikies, Probably lost half my YouTube audience, bing, bam, boom, right there and then. But I don't care, because stories are stories. It's life experience. It's part of the human condition. I might not belong to that culture either. I'm okay with that. I've made a lifetime out of not belonging. Like Groucho Marx. I belong to no club that will have me as a member, but I've belonged to a few clubs in my life. And, wow. Yes, I'm scratching my head in wonderment, actually, still to this day, about how things kept going so horribly, horribly wrong. Anyway, let us continue, people of Earth. Campbell's father, Lorne Sr., was the youngest boy in a family of 13 children who were close in their own way. They were all living in a tent, my aunts and uncles and father and grandparents. Imagine being in a tent in the freezing winters in Ontario. I don't know how they survived that. I go dancing, breathe in a bit of cold air, and I'm out for the count. How did they survive that? How did people survive it? Well, I wouldn't, would I? I just wouldn't have survived it. So, my hat's off to you. Canadians are strong people. I have to give them credit for that. Their climate alone is enough to finish me off. It makes me laugh to this day. I had a former friend who wanted me to move with her to Alaska. Alaska, people of Earth. Let's move to Alaska. I said, are you trying to kill me? No, Tanya. It'll be wonderful. Wonderful, she said. I'll get my certification back as a midwife. She says she was a forensic psychiatric nurse. I'll renew my, I'll get my accreditation back for midwifery. Well, I'll work as a midwife. What will I work as? I wasn't working in those days either. Disability pension. What am I supposed to be doing over there in Alaska, freezing my ass off? She says, you'll keep house and cook and clean and look after the house. so that when I come home, everything's all, nice and we'll have a good life. I said, what is this fantasy you've got going on? I said, what is this really about? She said, there's a lot of men in Alaska, Tanya. Loggers camps. Gail, I said. Gail. Loggers camps don't tend to have pregnant women. Yeah, some will bring their wives, surely. I don't know about that. They're usually out in the fucking wilderness, far away from everything. I don't know where are you going to get all these pregnant women for your midwifery from? Out in the middle of whoop whoop in the frozen wastelands of Alaska. Oh, she says, it'll be good for us. You'll keep house. Me, keep house. Oh, those days I was barely able to keep my dishes under bloody control. I used to have a trail of them leading out to the hall. People would come and visit me. They would just look at me and roll their eyes and step over them. This went on for about 3 weeks, by the way. I was on very heavy psych meds, so I didn't care about anything. Nothing. Bomb could have gone off and I just would have gone, oh, look, a bomb's gone off. So horrible, horrible way to be living. Horrible, and I'll never go back to that again. But anyway, so she's sliding across my dishes. No one, not even her, which she'd have a right to as a forensic psychiatric nurse, pulled me up on my slovenliness. Gets this mad idea that I should cook and clean for her, be domesticated and keep house. Like, sorry, but who's the crazy one in this equation? It was odd. It was very odd, people. She says, yeah, and then in my time off, she said, we'll go to the bars. They have fabulous bars in Alaska. And she says, and we'll pick up men and we'll have all the sex we could possibly want. I went, we could do that here. What's stopping you? She says, but Alaska, Tanya, Alaska. Her eyes were literally spinning. I was like, what the fuck is this? Who's taken control of her body and has possessed her with this weird fucking notion? So I played her out a little bit, because even though I was really, at that stage, very mentally mollycoddled, like my brains were like literally seeping through a colander most of the time. It was touch and go whether I was present or not, or in a dissociative fucking state. So, you could have entire conversations with me. I'd be nodding and smiling, and someone would ask me the next day, oh, did you see so-and-so? Would you talk about? I'd be like, don't remember. Just like a veil of forgetfulness. It was that bad. It really was like dying, constantly in a state of dying. So maybe I should have gone with her to Alaska. Maybe life would have been more interesting. Maybe I might have found a partner over there. Maybe I might have found my happy ever after. But no. So I spun her out a little bit. I said, have you thought about my lungs, Gail? What about your lungs? Well, you know how very sensitive my lungs are, Gail. Yeah, you'll be right. You'll have Ventolin and Seretide. We'll stock up before we go to Alaska. I'll make sure you've got all your medications. I'll look after you, Tanya. I start freaking the fuck out because I don't want to be at the mercy of anyone, really. I ride a very fine line of trusting in other humans and not wanting to be at their mercy. Trauma issues. Seen too many times what happens when that goes bad. Gail, I said, gale. We get off the plane from Brisbane, 40-degree heat. Yeah, she's all excited. Yeah. We arrive at whatever airport in Alaska we arrive at. No idea. Halifax? I have no idea. Yeah. It's winter in Alaska when it's our summer. Yeah. Her face starts to slowly shrink with cognition. Winter gale. But not like any winter we've ever experienced in our whole goddamn natural lives. Real winters. Yeah, I experienced those in England. I said, oh, that's nice for you, isn't it? I experienced Antarctic winds blowing off the southerlies right into my face in New Zealand. It's why I'm chronically ill. Yeah, I know, Tanya, yeah. We'll arrive in Alaska from 40-degree heat and an air-pressured craft. Yes, Tanya. We step off, we step off onto the tarmac. Yes, Tanya, it's going to be so exciting. We'll have someone meet us. Who's going to meet us? We're arriving in a foreign country. We know no one. Oh, they'll arrange someone if I'm working for them. Oh, that's good, I said. That's one good thing. I said, so the Tanya takes her first breath of Alaskan air, and what do you think will happen? That first breath of air after heat and being cooped up in a plane for however many hours. What she says, I said, instant fucking bronchitis and I'll be out for the count for 6 weeks. Do you understand? If we went to Alaska, we would have to go in summer and I would need to acclimatise, and even then I don't think the Alaskan winters would be survivable for me. That's why I haven't moved to Finland, by the way. Anyway, but it was the weirdest fantasy she had. And I said, and where do you think, since when did you think I would ever want to cook and clean? Oh, you will, Tanya, because we'll be settled and I'll bring in the money. There'll be plenty of money. This was starting to look a bit like a lesbian fantasy, except that she was mitigating it by telling me that we'd be down the bars picking up men. I was like, okay, all right. It's an interesting proposition. I said, but it ain't going to happen. Just ain't. It's not happening. Far out way. Right, let me continue with the story. Campbell's paternal grandfather, Matthew, was a stonemason who... Yes, my beautiful boy. Where are you? Can't see him. Where are you? Over there. Was a stonemason who immigrated to Canada from Scotland, where he was a Highlander, so he could handle the fricking cold. I think that's what she was craving, probably a proper cold winter or something. It'll be something basic like that. His hands were so huge he could pick up Campbell's father by his head when he misbehaved as a youngster. Scary thought. My aunts and uncles would often praise him for being a hard worker. The whole family would sit around and play penny ante poker. He'd spit chewing tobacco in a pail. We didn't think it was gross then. I think it's disgusting. Anyway. Campbell's father was just 19 when he enlisted on November 11th, 1941, and his military records say he was motivated by sense of duty. At that point, he had already worked for almost 5 years. Having left school after grade 8 at age 14. He first worked for his father in construction for $18 a week plus room and board, and then for a Pickering construction firm for $43 weekly. Lorne Sr. was a tough man, and his military records show that while training for 8 months at Cape Borden, before being shipped overseas, he wasn't a model of discipline. He was punished 4 times for taking off from camp. In his records, one of these escapes is called breaking out of camp while under open arrest. As Campbell puts it, my father liked his freedom. I get it. He was allowed out another time to marry a 19-year-old woman called Rose Patricia Prest. Camp likes to joke that he was born at Oshawa General Hospital in 1948, right beside my mother. The point of that joke is that they didn't really seem connected like a mother and child right from the start. What you doing, handsome boy? What's the little Bo doing? Yeah, I know. Where's my little Bobo? Can't even see him. Is that you, Bobo? Is that you in the middle there? Yes. Good boy. If his mother hugged him and said she loved him on the day of his birth, it was perhaps the last time she did so. My mother never in her life said, "I love you" to me, in that she was distant. Which wouldn't be so bad if she, if her actions proved otherwise, but by the sound of it. Right, people of Earth. Here I go with the refluxing again. Excuse me, that wasn't intentional. Right. Campbell grew up with 2 sisters, Lyne, 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 2 years older, and Loretta, who was born in 1954. There was also a younger sister named Roberta who died of pneumonia when she was an infant, and he was 5 years old. His mother took a photo of 6-month-old Roberta in her tiny open casket and never mentioned her name again. The picture of Roberta was put away somewhere, safe from eyes and fingers and conversation. Never was it talked about. In later years, after Campbell jumped with both boots into the Brotherhood of Outlaw Bikers, he was sometimes asked if he wished he had biological brothers as well. You deal with what you're dealt in life. People who grow up like I grew up, you don't realise there is any option. If my parents stayed together, things would have been different. If I had 5 brothers, things would have been different. If. It would have been nice to have a more loving family. I envy people, not to the point that I'm depressed, that are brought up with a loving family. I get it. One of his first childhood memories is of being decked out in 16-ounce boxing gloves when he wasn't yet old enough to go to school. Those gloves, I'm going to have to get a drink, my throat's closing up, sorry. Let me just finish this page. Those gloves were heavier than the ones adult pros wore for fights, and it was tough for little Lorne even to hold them up, let alone punch. Lorne Senior was only 5'7.5" on a lean frame, but he seemed massive as he would feint and then hit and then feint and then hit, while his son's skinny arms were way down at his sides. He would punch me in the head and I'd go sliding across the floor. Be right back, people of Earth. Need a drink. Right, my beautiful handsome boys, what you doing? What you doing? Kill the mama. Get in line. There's so many want to kill the mama. I know. What for? Because she holds her line. She lives in truth. And she has honour and courage and some kind of flagrant madness. But it is what it is, people of Earth. It is what it is. Right, where were we? Did I shut that door? Not quite. It's cold in the rest of the house. Immediately I went out there, took a breath, coffee. I need to show you my lawns were mowed today. I'm so happy about it. Look how lovely they look. Got a new lawn mowing man. He's from Vietnam and he does a wonderful job. I'm very happy with him. I didn't even go out of the house. I was just too bloody ill to even say, you know, yay or hello or goodbye. But I did text him, thank you. And I'm very, very pleased. Does a good job. And anyway, where was I? Right, reading the story. The violence in his home was different from the heroic on-screen kind Campbell loved to watch John Wayne act out on Saturday afternoon cowboy movies at the Biltmore, Marks, Regent and Plaza theatres in downtown Oshawa. The violence in his home was so all-pervasive that Campbell grew up thinking it was normal. He can't remember a time when he cried in front of his parents. Instead, he vividly recalls the time he and Line laughed hysterically while their father rained down blows on them with a belt as they lay under their covers. We couldn't stop laughing. It was hurting, but we were looking at each other and laughing. Laughter didn't make the blows any less painful, but it did give Campbell a sense of control in the situation. When I was getting beatings by my dad, I would never cry. They were often. I got used to it. Until the age of 5, he went regularly to Calvary Baptist Sunday School on Centre Street in Oshawa. It wasn't his parents who took him, but rather the next door neighbours, who were eager to reach out and try to save his little soul. Inside his home, religion wasn't promoted, but it wasn't treated with a lack of respect either. We weren't taught to fear anything like the devil. Campbell kids were expected to defer to grown-ups, be polite, respect your elders. It was just bred into every Campbell. It was Mr. and Mrs. You never called older people by their first name, never disrespected elders. I was raised the same way. You know, it tells me what generation he was born in because it's raised the same way. There was a method, however misguided, to the violence that permeated his childhood home. It was clear from as early as Campbell can remember that he needed to grow up tough. Lorne Sr. had been an amateur boxer, both in and out of the army. In later years, his fingers were stained nicotine yellow from smoking 3 packs of export planes a day. But Lorne Sr. could still make a fist and use it with speed and power. Every time I turned around, I got hit by my dad. He said, "When you grow up, you're going to learn to be a fighter." In the Campbell household, there was no greater insult than to be called a schemer or a conniver. That he should run headlong towards something frightening rather than flee from it was bred into Campbell's bones. This could mean a spectacular flame out, but at least he would go out like a man. If there's a problem, confront the man, his father would say. This approach became central to Campbell's fighting style. A good shot to the solar plexus or a hook to the jaw was enough to take the knees out of most fancy dancers in or out of the ring. I wasn't ever deeked by anybody. I couldn't ever be faked by anybody. Campbell was handy with his fists on the schoolyard, but he never considered himself a bully. Bullies are cowards and weak. Indeed, they fucking are. The worst coward is a man who fakes love for you. But never mind. Let it go, people of Earth. I was never a bully. Not me. I would hate if I was ever thought of in that context. I hate cowards. I despise cowards. Just don't put me on a plane to Alaska in the middle of winter. On that I'm chicken shit. You don't have to be a tough guy and go out and kill somebody to not be a coward. During one schoolyard scuffle, he was caught totally by surprise when another boy booted him quick and hard and deep between the legs. When he told his father about it, Lorne Sr. sloughed it off. He said, "If you can't fight with your dukes, you're not a man." Still, the sudden nausea was real and the kick was undeniably effective. Campbell began practicing kicks on his own when his father wasn't watching. By the time he was a young man, he was able to leap up and boot the top of a door frame, although he wouldn't brag about it to his dad. Everybody loves their father when they're grown up. So did I. Excuse me. I was his only son. He wanted me to grow up being a fighter. His heart was in the right place. I think that I'm a lot like him. No, he just turned him into, like cures light, the same kind of monster his father was, by the gods. Instead of wanting better for your kids, a happier, safer, more loving life. Intergenerational trauma, people. It's a thing. A thing. Sometimes I'm almost grateful that my line stops with my girls. But then that's not fair, because whoever comes in the next generation, what genius could have been born, what beauty, what great artist or amazing scientist or inventor, or must never give up hope on your progeny, people of Earth. Some of us came from dirt to dirt will return eventually. But between dirt and dirt, there can be a great flowering, spectacular and splendiferous. Mustn't give up on humanity, people of Earth, although it's hard not to sometimes. Those birds are weirdly quiet, aren't they? What you doing, Kermie? Kermie! Campbell got his first bicycle when he was about 6 from his uncle Bob Chayton, who worked at the General Motors plant in Oshawa. The bike was so big he had to ride with one leg under the crossbar. How would you do that? It's going to stir up Bo now. Are you going to stir up the Bo? You are. All right. All right. But it brought a sense of freedom he would never forget. I remember that feeling riding with my friend Lynn Robertson on our way to Red Rocks, arms wide, shrieking with happiness, our hair flying in that fucking southerly winds, freedom from our parents and from school, and wild and free like two little heavenly creatures we were, almost literally, you understand. And fair play too if we'd figured out how to cut the fucking brake line. My only regret in this life was I didn't know what a brake line looked like, so I couldn't help her try and figure it out either. I was 7, she was 11. She wanted to help me. To you. Would have made us both murderers, but it was still would have been worth it. It's what you do with PDF aisles. Scum they are. But anyway, everyone lived to have long, long lives, prosperous even. Well, I myself spent 60 years struggling. There's no justice in this world, people of Earth. None. Had to reconcile with myself to that, with the will dispute. No fucking justice. Even the barrister said to me, justice in Queensland is referred to as just ice. Easy for him to be glib. But they did cut their costs to put a little bit of money in my hand, as they knew they'd sold me down the river deep down. Well, that was partly due to my sister's absconding of her responsibilities too. All of them. Motherfuckers. But anyway, what is money? Meaningless in the broad scheme of things. You can't eat it. You can't take it with you. It's just a energy exchange. Freedom. That feeling of freedom. Far, far higher reward. My dad never had a car. Most of my uncles never had a car. Campbell would put empty cigarette packages in the spokes to make motorcycle sounds. I shouldn't laugh. For longer excursions, he would take a second empty cigarette pack for when the first one wore out. Sometimes he rode with other kids, and often he rode alone. I rode everywhere on it. As he grew older, Campbell developed a pronounced sentimentality about birthdays and anniversaries. But as a boy, such markers of time didn't seem to matter much to those around him. It wasn't until he was about 10 that anyone actually celebrated his birthday, when his aunts and uncles pulled something together. There were no other kids there, but I did get a present or two. I can't remember what they were. I think it was a sweater or some piece of clothing. But I got ginger ale. The main thing that sticks in my mind is a glass of ginger ale with a trick ice cube with a fly in the cube. I drank the whole glass without even noticing it. They told me when I was done. That was fine with me. I didn't get ginger ale very often. How mean, they even had to cheapen that nice treat for him by putting a fly in it. here's something nice for you, but now we're going to turn it to shit. My ex-husband used to do that to me too. Make things ugly. 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 I don't have that kind of sense of humour. Give or not give. Take away, or, what you need to take away. But don't turn everything to shit, people of Earth. Life's shitty enough. And the older you get, the more you'll understand what I'm putting down here. You start expecting to be treated right. Not even those nasty little pranks. Just genuine kindness. Campbell's mother told him little about her side of the family. She was born Eileen Chayton, a dour combination of Pennsylvania Dutch and English, and looked quite a bit like the young Queen Elizabeth, although any comparison between herself and royalty stops there. She must have been pretty though, because Queen Elizabeth was quite pretty when she was young. Perhaps the proudest, most vibrant time of her life was during the Second World War, when she was single and worked at General Motors. Just checking on the boys. What you doing? What actually are you doing, little Kermie? Come on. Kermie. Kermie. Yeah. Put some life back into Kermie. Missed out going outside today because I was just too weak most of the day, but if the gods gift us a beautiful day tomorrow and Mum is feeling a bit stronger, which clearly I am since I'm reading to my YouTube audience, I'll be putting you outside in the sunshine. So it was when she was single and worked at General Motors. Are you planning on going into Bo's cage and beating him up? Is that your evil plan? I'm watching you. Yes, I am. There will be no violence tolerated at sacred space, not even from my pet birdies. Yes? Right. The Oshawa factory. Oh, I think he's moving in. Yeah, little swine. Kermie? No. Kermie? Go back to your own cage. Stop being silly. You're being silly. He's just bored. He's bored. He wants to stir someone up. Honestly. Also, it's getting late. You should be getting ready to roost. Go to bed, little rooster. Go on. Go in your own cage and get ready to do the roost. Over here. Over here. Yes, handsome boy. Little boy. Little boy. He's a sweet little birdie too. Right, happiness is for the birds, people of Earth. The Oshawa factory had been temporarily converted into an aircraft plant, and towards the end of the war, workers like Lorne Campbell's mother proudly built a fighter aircraft there every day. Years later, when American war veterans from California started up a biker club, they called it the Hells Angels, after World War II fighter pilots. Well, there you go, I didn't know that. I think we may still, I don't know. I think there was a chapter of Hell's Angels down Greenbank Way. Can't really be certain, can't confirm or deny, but I'm fairly sure they had a clubhouse down that way. Oh, my eyelashes are twitching. Huh. Right. Years after that, police called the Hells Angels urban terrorists. And Campbell couldn't understand how the term could be applied to him, even if he broke his fair share of laws. He considered himself and his family patriots in their own fashion, and never saw any disconnect between his parents' service for their country and his years as an outlaw biker. Lorne Sr. could be a charmer and filled a room with laughter and the air with a promise of better times ahead. He wasn't big, but his presence was. Everywhere he went, he was liked. It's amazing, isn't it? Beating the snot out of his kid every day, but out there in the world, well liked. My grandmother did it. My mother did it. I, to a certain degree, did it. Well, I didn't beat my children relentlessly, but there were times when they got, they got smacked. Anyway. He certainly charmed women out of their inhibitions overseas. And later, isn't it a delicate way of putting it? Charmed women out of their inhibitions. And later bragged that he had fathered children in France, Germany and England while serving in the Lorne Scots Infantry, a proud old Canadian regiment whose motto, Er son a Duchesse, I think that's how you pronounce that, translates to for our heritage. Campbell's mother learned of these wartime escapades from her brothers and sisters-in-law, which made it all the more embarrassing and painful for her. Jesus. No fucking couth. That's what men do though, isn't it? Spread their seed far and wide, hopefully avoiding any responsibility for it too, avoiding consequences of their actions, just progeniting. What Lorne's mother also didn't know when she met his father was that he'd been married to a woman named Rose when he went off to war. While still married to Rose, Lorne Sr. fathered a daughter who was born in England in 1944 by a woman named Doris. He promised to bring Doris home when the war ended, telling her they would marry in Canada. Bloody liar. Cheap scamp. Befoulment. When the war was over, Lorne's father didn't bother to tell an army counsellor the extent of his romantic complications. Counsellor was duly impressed by what he was told, writing, "A neat, responsive young man, clean-cut in appearance and sturdy in build, Campbell is wisely returning to his father's construction company. Experienced in most phases of the business, He intends to learn blueprint reading and then will be able to take over from his father, whose health is poor. Thus it would appear that this man is well on the way to a satisfactory re-establishment in civilian life, leaving a train wreck behind him. Right, I'm just going to get up for a moment because I need to shut the boys in their cages and put the light on and bloody blah. Right. How about you go into your own cage? Oh, good boy. In you go. In you go. Good boy. Oh, you're such a clever, handsome boy. Mother loves you. Right. Put your towel on your cage. Get you ready for bed. I know. It's that time of night again. Do you know what a good boy you are, Kermie? You're just getting better and better and better and better. Yes, you are. What happened here? We're all kerfuffled. Are we all kerfuffled? Let me just give this up. And because it's not dark yet, and you don't have to be, you know, closed off to Mama T just yet, we'll just have that corner there. And you little schnooks, put the light on. My goodness. You were feeling a bit in danger there, weren't you, my boy? You were living dangerously. You're eating all your food. Why won't you eat your raisins? Won't eat his raisins. They're very, very dried raisins. Alright. Won't eat fruit and vegetables. He's a strange little bird. Just top up his food a bit too while we're at it, because he really loves. I buy this rather expensive pellets and stuff for them both now. They were on a Trill diet, but I'm not fond of the brand Trill, but so I changed their diet over. And little boat really passionately loves this stuff, like almost addicted to it. But Kermie, not that keen on it. You know, he sort of eats it, but he's a good boy. He mainly eats his fruit and vegetables. So, whereas little one won't eat fruit and vegetables, but he's living on this. Anyway, I tell you what, you're living your best lives, aren't you, boys? You really are. Yes, are you happy now? Oh, yes, look at that. He says, look, the mama gave me fresh food. I can go to town on that. It's like Christmas and Hanukkah and all the birthdays, all happening in a far out way. There we go, little beautiful little boy. Right, Mama's going to put the blanket on, so don't get scared. Because I know it scares you when I do that. Oh, dear goddess. Yes, my darling. Same deal, I'll leave a corner open so you can still see the mama and see your brother and what's going on and all that. Still be part of the party of consciousness. Right. Part of the party of consciousness. Help as if I sit properly. Ugh. I was going to say on the chair, but it just went right out from underneath me. I'm not happy about that. That's not good. Second-hand chair. I've had it for quite some years now, so I guess sooner or later it's gonna break on me. It's all good, people of Earth. We will survive. Might shut the blinds as well, this blind as well. It's all bleak and grey and horrible out there anyway. Who wants to look at that? It was pretty earlier. I missed most of a really beautiful day because I just wasn't well. Happens. I'm going to have a little piece of chocolate. Just a piece because things don't have much flavour. The flavours come back. Sense of taste has come back. That's good. It was a bit touch and go there last day or two. Right. Lorne Sr. returned to Canada alone and promptly divorced Rose. It was around this time that he met Eileen and married her. All the while, he was still writing Doris and receiving love letters from her, which he hid in a secret cache. Lorne Jr. grew up in a string of small rental homes in downtown Oshawa, on streets around Centre, Bloor, Albert, Selina, Simcoe, and a number of others whose names he can no longer recall. He does recall sticking up on the schoolyard for his first cousin Sanford, Sandy Hawley, who was 6 months younger and considerably smaller. Nobody ever picked on Sandy. Sandy was so small that when he tried out for the football team, some of the larger kids suggested using him as the ball. Even back then, Sandy was tough and focused and dreamed of life as a jockey, while Lorne always wanted to be a cowboy. The allure of cowboy life certainly had little to do with riding horses. Once when he was about 5, he was taken to a farm and plunked down on the back of a towering animal. I remember my uncle slapping it and me falling off. It was a big horse. The draw of cowboy life was the notion of living at a time when the law was made according to what men felt was right in their guts, and when agreements were sealed by handshakes, not indecipherable contracts. Don't get me started on that one. My mother and my paternal grandfather. That evil cow. Anyway, but my grandfather, being old school, thought that was going to hold, you know. Because he was a real man, actually, my grandfather. Whereas my mother was ultimately, as I discovered with the will dispute, not honourable at all. It's why honour and decency and integrity and truth and real love is so important to me. So very, very important. It's a hill I'll die on. I will die because of holding to those values one day, but it's worth it in the end. Perhaps that age never really existed, but going to the movies every Saturday encouraged him to think that it did. Do I ever wish I'd been a cowboy? I've often said that. There was more freedom back then. Just seeing who's out there banging around. The scrub turkey. Drinking the milk that the crow didn't finish off. Oh well, let them have it. I put it out there for them to enjoy. It was meant for the possums, but if I really wanted the possums to have it, I should have put it out now that it's getting dark. So the possums dipped out. There was more freedom back then. There weren't as many luxuries, but you wouldn't have known that if you were alive back then. That would just be the way, excuse me, that would just be the way things were back then. I'm a romantic. In adult life, he took to wearing cowboy boots, even though their soles scrape down quickly on asphalt when you're riding a motorcycle. Yeah, that wouldn't be good footwear at all. He learned to wear them for a month or so and then attach an extra sole so they could handle the wear and tear of riding a bike. But it's not a cowboy thing, Campbell insists. They're just comfortable. Campbell's parents split up when he was 8. Certainly the beatings at the hands of his father were a factor in Eileen's decision to finally leave. Her eventual discovery of the secret stash of love letters from Doris in England likely didn't help much either. You think? A single man again, Lorne Sr., phoned overseas to Doris. She had since married a Scotsman and was now leading what appeared to be a secure, if bloodless, life in England. Doris and her husband slept in separate beds, and she dressed formally, even for breakfast. Her sister answered the phone when he called. "Do you know who this is?" he asked. "Yeah, it's Lorne," the sister replied. Within days, Doris flew to Canada, abandoning her life in England. Not long after that, she and Lorne Sr. were married. Maybe he had once been as much of a romantic as his son, but it didn't last. Romance was soon replaced by anger and abuse, just as it had been for Lorne's mother. Doris took a lot of abuse from my dad, the same abuse as my mom, but she loved him to death. After the breakup of his parents' marriage, Campbell wanted to live with his father, but a court ordered him to stay at his mother's home. It would be years before he was reunited with his family. Whatever respect for the law Campbell may have felt up to this point now disappeared. The law kept him under a different roof from his dad, and he loved his dad, beatings and all. His father hit him, but at least he didn't ignore him. Years later, he would try to explain why he wanted so badly to live with his father, despite the violence. In a child's mind, you think that's the way it is, that every family is like that. My dad wasn't a good dad, but I thought he was. He'd take me to the boxing club and box with me. I would always hear, "You're going to be a fighter when you grow up." My mother never had much to do with me in that way. I was just devastated when my parents split up and it was decided I had to go with my mother. Just devastated. I was 8 when my parents split up, and I wasn't totally thrilled about being left with my mother either, but I guess it was a lesser evil. No, that's a lie I tell myself. Anyway, let's not think about that. We're reading Campbell's stories, not mine. Campbell was a smart, if often angry student at South Simcoe Elementary School. I fought every day at that school. Getting the strap was just another part of school life, like recess and homework. And on one particularly hard day when he was 11 years old, he and the principal set what must have been a school record, by the gods. Fellow students counted to 32 as the strap slammed down on Campbell's hands. The principal had taken off his jacket and tie and leapt into the air to give his blows extra force. A fucking sadist. I threw that in. But that's what he was. A fucking low-life entity, demonic sadist. He was trying to make me cry. He didn't. My dad can hurt me more than this, I was thinking. The kids were counting. He felt so bad. He told me to wash my hands in cold water when he was finally done. And I got a beating from my mother when I got home. Yep, that's how it works. Doubly punished for being targeted by a fucking sadist. Fuck, I hate other human beings. You can look into all your eyes now. I hate you all. Some of you I love deeply. Let's hold on for the lovable ones. During those years, Campbell lost contact with his father, even though he lived in the same city. He often thought of how his life would be better if the courts would only allow them to live together. He didn't reflect on his brother's failure. Sorry, brothers. I'm losing it, people of Earth. He didn't reflect on his father's failure to pay child support, even though he had well-paying factory jobs. He had a beautiful personality. He was really funny. He was a vapid, mouth-breathing, philandering, violent, cheap cunt. That's what he really was. But kids don't want to, the shame of living with a parent like that. Dress it up, put pretty little bows and sparkles and live in this fugue state that everything's fine and dandy when really it's a fucking nightmare. Ask me how I know. Campbell was intelligent enough to realise in later years that, what I just said, he had romanticised his dad in a way that didn't quite line up with reality. In truth, my dad wouldn't have wanted me anyways, and the beatings would have continued. Everybody overlooked the idea he was beating my mother, and he'd fuck anything that moved. Campbell couldn't get comfortable at his mother's home especially after a new stepfather moved in. The stepfather wasn't a bad man, but his arrival made a small house even more crowded. Pardon me. And Campbell preferred to wander by himself at night. I wasn't into anything. I would just stay out and walk the streets. A trauma response, by the way. Two weeks before Campbell's 14th birthday, Eileen told authorities she couldn't handle him anymore. He hadn't been charged with any crime, but was classified as unmanageable by a judge. He spent that night in a steel-meshed cell. I felt like a caged animal. The worst thing you can take away from a trauma survivor is their freedom, people of Earth. We'll die without it. We will choose death. A woman came down and sat with me. She talked to me for the longest time. I don't remember what she said, but she was a nice lady. He was stunned that he was about to be sent to a training school on the site of a Second World War prisoner of war camp in nearby Bowmanville, about 25 kilometres east of Oshawa. It was scary. It was two cops that drove me to Bowmanville. One of the cops said, "You think you're tough? There's guys down there who can take you apart and put you back together again." I didn't believe it. I said, "Oh yeah?" 2 weeks later, officials realised they had made a mistake. Since Campbell was only 13 and Bowmanville was for boys 14 to 18. He transferred to nearby Coburg, where the youngest detainee was just 5 years old. And all these kids have done wrong is that their biological parents simply don't love them, don't want responsibility for them, found someone new to fuck, like the new stepfather in his case. Don't care enough to raise their kids. That's all they've done wrong, most of those children. It's evil, isn't it? Just evil. The little boy was nicknamed Cookie. and all the others rallied around and protected him because of his age. Campbell himself had no problems in Coburg because he was one of the older, tougher kids. Some of the cabins there were named after British military leaders such as Cornwallis and Nelson, and Coburg boys were expected to march everywhere, their arms swinging like little soldiers heading into battle. Twisted, twisted. Aggrandizing war is twisted. Someone's yelling out, no, 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 it's discipline. No, 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 it's child abuse and brainwashing and psy-operational programming. The fact that they've been doing it for centuries is beside the point. Twisted is what it is. Those boys needed love, not marching. They needed support. They needed encouragement. They needed proper parenting by the gods. Shortly after his arrival, an older boy named Malins told him he could expect a beating soon. There were no gangs in the training school, but there was a pronounced tribalism. Dear goddess. Sorry, my lungs get worse as the temperature drops and descends into nightfall. It's part of my condition I've lived with since I was 4 years old. So don't mind me. I'm holding myself together. Campbell was housed in Ramsey House and was quickly known as the Rock of Ramsey, the toughest kid there. As such, he was expected to defend the house against taunts and attacks from boys in the other houses. Campbell declared his personal war on bullies. You've got to stop it before it starts. I'd stare at them knowing they'd eventually have to go. What the fuck are you staring at? I'd go. You. I'd know they were bullies just by watching them. One afternoon, Campbell was holding some cleaning supplies when Malins bumped into him on purpose. I turned around and smacked him in the head. A supervisor named Montgomery jumped in the middle and then encouraged Campbell and Malins to continue the fight in a washroom. Sorry, this is going to get very ugly very quickly, so trigger warning. Take a break if you need to. I can already tell I haven't even glanced that far ahead. What stood out about the supervisor was that he wore large, cheap rings on almost all of his fingers. He routinely organised fights between the young inmates. No weapons were allowed and combatants were forbidden from kicking an opponent who was down. Other than that, it was pretty much anything goes. Surrounded by a circle of spectators, Campbell pummeled Malins while the supervisor watched. I bet the shit out of her. When Malins could take no more blows and the fight was no longer entertaining, the supervisor ordered the other boys to leave the washroom and pulled Campbell aside. His first shot caught Campbell totally by surprise. His rings raked across Campbell's face as he smashed him with an open hand. The supervisor backhanded him again and again. Decades later, Campbell could vividly recall the sensation of the rings tearing into his face. and the feeling of abject powerlessness in his gut. But the supervisor couldn't drive Campbell to despair. All the time I was being beaten, I thought, I'm not going to be 14 forever. I'm going to grow up. That's my boy. What did get to him were arbitrary, impersonal, smothering rules, like when he was ordered to sit with his knees together and his hands crossed for hours on end. Sometimes this would stretch on for weeks with breaks only for food and sleep. That's when I started crying. Another supervisor told Campbell that he was going to be placed in a foster home. Campbell advised him to give up on that idea. I told him, if you send me to a foster home, I'll run away in an hour. Best just leave me here. I'm going home. Academically, he scored an 84% average, the highest of all the boys, and it felt satisfying, even though there was no parent around to congratulate him and no award to put on his wall. His father did come once for a visit. It took an hour for him to get the necessary clearance from Eileen, since a court order barred him from meeting Lorne without her permission. That day, Campbell was playing football with the other boys and Supervisor Montgomery. It was just a touch game, but Montgomery wore cleats anyways, and in one violent collision, he knocked Lorne out cold. They played on as Campbell lay by the side of the field. I woke up and they were still playing football. One of the reasons why I fucking abhor sports of all kinds. It's just war dressed up as a game and form of sadism. Not long after that, Campbell was enjoying his father's visit. He didn't bother mentioning the football game and how he had just been knocked unconscious. I would never have complained to him because it wouldn't have done any good. Besides, it was a good day now and he didn't want to wreck what was left of it with whining. It was I want to cry, poor little bugger. By the gods, it's like I'm living it now. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in there, because my mother never visited me. Never. The father and son talked that afternoon of how much they missed each other, but Campbell's father never visited him again. After 10 months in Coburg, Campbell was returned to his mother. His father had given him his wartime France and Germany Star, Defence Medal, Canadian Volunteer Service Medal, and a clasp War Medal, 1939 to 45, and puttees. But when Campbell got home, they were all gone. He kept asking his mother where she'd put them, but he never found out. She would never answer me. Right, people of Earth, that's chapter 1. I hesitated to read from this book because it's gritty and painful and real, but ironically, There's lessons to be learned and some comfort to be derived from other people's surviving their own life experiences and reminders of what I too have survived. And it's all good, people of Earth. Digging deep into that groove so that I can be gently lifted off into another groove where I'm truly loved and life is beautiful again. Blessed be. Take good care, be of good cheer, and remember to never ever let the bastards grind you, me, us down. Bye for now, planet Earth.